Hi, and welcome to this edition of MyMetroTV.com Daybreak. First stop to the rest of the weekend. I'm Frederick Knight. Thanks for joining us this morning. Coming up this morning, got a great show on tap for you. My conversation with South Carolina native and thespian Reginald Brunson. We'll discuss his performance of the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech, why the speech is timeless and poignant still today. Also on the way, it's never too late to start a business, even after retirement. Plus, we have the My Metro TV Movie Minute, the inspirational video of the week, and more when we get started on this morning's edition of MyMetroTV.com. Daybreak, first stop to the rest of the weekend. All right, thank you for taking the time out, Brother Brunson. Now, your presentation of I Have a Dream, how important, or what do you think is the importance of rededicating and performing, or should I say reciting this speech? What kind of importance do you place on it?
This year being even more significant, being the 50th anniversary when Dr. King delivered the speech on the National Mall, August 28th of 1963. Also the 150th anniversary of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. I just felt the reason I'm doing it so many times this year was the message is still got to be put out there, and it's so many, we've sort of lost a couple of generations where they're missing the effort that our forefathers put into getting us to where we are today. And so I think the more I give it, the more people hear it, hear the message, the nonviolent message that Dr. King was giving, they'll see that we've come a long way, but we've got so much farther to go. We've got to go further. We've got to keep the fight up, keep fighting the good fight, and keep striving to uplift our race and our country.
I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who'd been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize an appalling condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come here today to cash this check. A check which will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We've also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to open the doors of opportunity for all of God's people. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. But there's one thing I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. in the process of gaining our rightful place. We must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. I'm not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. Now you have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the Carolinas, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that the state of Mississippi, a desert state, sweltering with the heat of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with white boys and white girls and work together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places shall be made plain, and the crooked places shall be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith with which I return to the South. And with this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sang, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous peaks of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every state and every village, every city and every hamlet, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
Still to come, we've got the My Metro TV Movie Minute. We'll take a look at some of the things going on in and around the Metro and the inspirational video of the week. All that and more coming up when we continue with MyMetroTV.com. Daybreak, first stop to the rest of the weekend.